Alright everyone, it's time for another occult literature update, number 270, Religions of Ancient China. I figured I was looking through my source files and I decided that one that dealt with China was apt, considering, the epidemic currently burning through the world, after doing several herbal works as well. Link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. Second and third links are to my books blogs. You can find plenty of other more academic, sort of quasi-anthropological and historical works. They're mostly under the academic header. If you're into the corona hype, you can also see the herbal category for some works of homeopathy. This particular work tries to condense thousands of years of history into only 48 pages. The initial work was about 100. You got to understand, this is an example of sort of the early 20th century travelers literature. So you have these little booklets, and the idea was that, you get on the train, you get on the carriage or whatever at the time for a few hours, and you wanted something to read. And so they would keep it small. People didn't want to take, huge leather-bound volumes with them. They would have condensed, fairly small works, usually physically small. You could put them in a purse, you could put them in a briefcase, and you could carry them around. And people would get together and they would read and discuss things actually while on mass transit quite regularly. And people were maybe more enlightened with regards to that. They didn't have phones to plug in and listen to their rap music at the time, so they read about Chinese religious history, I guess. It's a good work. It's frightfully short, but it is extremely good. It covers Taoism, the historical development therein, Confucius, of course, the materialistic movement, which is more of a latter-day thing, and then, of course, the origins of the spirituality prior to Confucius as well, with some of the ancestral worship, actual sacrifice, and so forth. You could add a fifth section to this work if it were written today for the communist period, which takes hold not long after this, expunging religion, not being just materialistic, but also strictly state atheism. And then, of course, now you're actually in a revivalist period. This work basically ends with the then modern period 100 years ago, where other than Islam, which was, still practiced in some of the Western provinces, other than that, for the most part, you had Buddhism and sort of atheistic materialism, and really those were the only religious forces at the time that had any real sway. There's some scattered ancestor worship, but nothing major. Christianity had been all but wiped out. The Mazdists had been expunged, and so forth. Really, Islam was the only holdout. Now Christianity is at a revival in China. There are tens of millions of Christians there all over the place. Of course, you have to have a state-sanctioned church. The communist centrality stringently controls what kind of message those Christians are allowed to absorb. It's sort of a Chinese version of Christianity, but it is very much in vogue. You've definitely got traditional religion in the pagan sense in a revival there. And of course, still a lot of atheism and anti-spirituality as well, materialistic movements. I think that this is fascinating. It goes up through a series of dynasties within China, and sort of the way in which the emperors or the other individuals who were in charge at the time, of course, that morphing as well in the political sense, the political structure, its interplay with spirituality. Like, I guess there was one emperor that took a bag and filled it with meat or something and would throw things at it. And if it was trying to play a game of dice with God, so to speak, he labeled that God, and when it lost, he would, throw rocks at it. I guess he was kind of a nut. It's a very interesting story. There's some stuff in here that's kind of on the weird side, and it's definitely written from the European sort of imperialistic perspective on Eastern cultures, but perhaps less judgmental than some works of the same period. Some of them are stringently bigoted in the most literal sense. This work avoids doing so and is a bit more on the dry historical side. I liked it. This is part of a series that had titles on ancient Greece and some of these others. I've got them all, and I'm going to be releasing them over time. I figured I'd do China first, though, for obvious reasons. Again, link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon. Second and third links to my books blogs. You can check out the academic header. There's plenty of history and anthropology there. That's about all. Peace out.